crashing down. All around this empty town, I'm searching for the lost and found. But you don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air, like a blazing flare. Just stare, cause the flames will burn us. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me. Hold your hand while the pain was over. Keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me. Shadows in the atmosphere, charting the stratosphere. Yeah. I prayed for you and kept you near, in hopes you'd chase away my fears. I'm on my own, you made it so, and now I'm chasing nightmares. I used to run with you through the great big leaves, laugh at you when you laugh at me. Hope for us because I believe the home was just you and me. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. No point in blaming you, you did not know. Oh, I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me.
map just started. Nice. Yo, Dev, you here, my man?
Of course, of course.
Nice. Let's get it then. Welcome everyone to Season 9, Week 1, Flamers Inc. versus ICY. It's Vaughn here, casting with my good pal Dev. Dev, what's up?
Nothing much. It's another game, another day.
True, another day, another game of P-Cup. So let's jump right into pick ban because these are two teams that we've never actually seen before. As the picks are coming down, we're gonna see a lot of new faces. We're gonna see a lot of new picks. We have a couple returning members like Karaoke, but for the most part, I've got a blank slate, and I'm wondering what we're gonna see today as these teams debut for their very first time. So as the first top side of the map is getting picked. Both teams did this in Pro Draft as well. I've got to ask you, Dev. Pantheon 100% pick ban at Worlds. It's finally gone through a draft in P Cup, and we see it slotted into the jungle spot for Zohair. What do you think of this champ? Why are teams prioritizing it so heavily? Like, what is it about Pantheon that just makes it so dominant in competitive play?
So, we did see it actually 2 days ago from Divot. It actually started out like 10-1 or something. Solo killed mid lane 7 times. The big thing about Pantheon is just the power that his execution Q has in just a trade cycle. Is if Pantheon hits you with that Mortal Willed Q, you're taking 300 damage. Just minimum in that fight. And
Yeah,
for not a lot of champions, that's their entire health pool, or at least half of it, maybe a quarter.
true. True, and I know from a fact from being terrified to play it myself that those empowered abilities really have an impact, especially that empowered E, the being able to frontline, and that's going to be an important thing as well. As the rest of the comps are rounding out, we see that on the red side for Icy, other than the Malphite, there's not really a frontline you can find. So Pantheon with that sort of semi-bruiser status is probably going to help him a lot. Now, on the other side, on blue team, we've got some really heavy engage. We've got a Camille, we've got a Zac, we've got a Nautilus, and we have Echo for flanks. So in terms of how these teams are stacking up, it looks like blue side wants to pull the trigger, but so can red side. So Dev, if you were slotted into one of these teams, if you were a player, which one of these comps would you feel more confident if you were loading onto the Rift?
So you have to feel more confident on the blue side draft. I mean, the only thing I'm very questionable on blue side is the fact of the Zac. Now they did ban Zaya first rotation, which means you kind of were saying you're going to take Kaisa. But the issue is like red team can fight, but Ash is just going to be stuck there. Like you have Echo, you have Nautilus. Like she's not going to live through these fights. You have to just hope that your Zydus doesn't get one shot by Malphite or something.
By Zai, you mean Kaisa?
All right, Kaisa.
Yeah. So our eyes are going to be on Kaisa then to make sure she can successfully survive that dive that's going to come through, because that's going to be a big decider in the team fights. Camille's going to be able to output damage and Echo as well, but it seems like both of these teams really excel in their abilities to dive the backline, and one of the ADCs picked has much more versatility in surviving said backlines. With a Kaisa, you have the R, you have the invisible E, you have Zanyas that you can build. The champion is just insane. But Ash doesn't really have a lot of that. So we're going to have to see if on the side of Icy, their marksman player can actually survive these team fights. But now you mentioned that the Zac pick was interesting to you. You weren't sure about it. And while you did favor blue side draft, how do you think we've mentioned both the jungle picks now? I know that Zac isn't too strong early. So what is, if you're on red team, what do they have to do early game to try to make sure that they're, in your eyes, the comp that's more difficult to execute successfully? What do they have to do in this early laning phase to really make sure they succeed?
So in the early lane phase, if I'm Pantheon, I'm looking to probably do some level 2 to something mid lane. You need to make sure Syndra has lane priority here. You don't want her to push too far because of the Zac, but your Pantheon, you can easily just get a big leash and then just run mid, have your Q and your W scale, try and get a pick on Echo, because Malphite doesn't have that much kill potential pre-6. You would actually have to wait bottom lane if you wanted to gank there for the Nautilus to engage for you, because I don't see the Ashe and the Braum stepping up that close to the Kai'Sa's Nautilus lane. So I feel like the best chance to get ahead for red side is have to go through mid lane.
Going through midline for red side will be something interesting to see, because we have Hiccup in the mid lane on the Cinder. Now, Hiccup is one of the newer members of P-Cup. I'm familiar with her play because I've played in a couple in-houses in another league. A solid player, not going to actually break the bank in terms of carry potential, which is the refreshing thing about Icy. It seems like a lot of their team has similar levels of skill. Very frequently in P-Cup, you see teams that are dominated by extremely skewed player points. You see gold players mixed with, high diamond master players. You see very wide discrepancies. So it's sort of refreshing in a way to see a team that has players that are all ranked similarly in solo queue coming together and actually making it through the play-ins. Now, for the rest of the season, we'll have to see if any of these players stand out more than one or another. I know I'll be watching for my first power rankings for Talk Show because I need to make sure now that we know stats that I see how everyone does. The player that I want everyone's eyes to be on is Keatonology, actually. I think this is a player who will be competing for the number 1 ADC spot this season. I think with how much competition there is in the ADC role, to be fair, you have last season's champion Samso. You have now that Protoss Colin. Now that Protoss Colin is teaming with PJ or Bot, he's going to be a legitimate threat. We've got a revolving door of ADCs on other teams. You have Wump who's come back on Divith. As someone who's played against Keatonology before in plans and has also seen him in another league, I think that is the star player of this blue team roster. And you're going to have to make sure you keep your eyes on him as he goes through the game because it really, like we mentioned earlier, is going to come down to these ADCs being able to fight and kite out these fights successfully. So as we load into the game, phenomenally great timing. Now, you mentioned about what were the goals of red and blue side were going to be early, and while I mostly agree with you, I think I want to draw attention because we've been focusing so much on that bot side matchup about how the ADCs need to make sure that they play these team fights correctly. How do you, Dev, how do you make sure that if you're this harder to execute comp, that your bot lane is in a spot safe enough in these fights? Like how should these fights be getting played out? What is the ideal scenario for red side? Because as you said, it is really, really critical that these teams find their own win con. So how do they get there? What are they going to be doing? What are we going to be looking for as this game progresses?
So I hate to say it because it sounds kind of boring. I feel like the Ash Braum is just going to be kind of stuck at their tower for most of this game, not really pushing out from the middle of the lane by river. Because so you are on red side. Zach from red side has the interesting gank path where he can just go behind where the blast cone is, charge up and hop you from the back side of the wall. And also, his river gank from the brush isn't bad either. And I think if you are the Zach, you want to probably get your Kaisa ahead, at least where she can have her Muramana and then just scale from there. Camille is probably the better target if you want someone to hard carry, but the Ashe is going to be very weak early because they went with the Braum and not a Tom Kench to really get her out of these bad positions that the Zach and the Nautilus can put her into.
I completely get where you're coming from there, and as someone who hates Tom Kench, I'm so glad that champion wasn't picked. I just despise the fact that a mobile QSS can be made meta, but without a doubt, we are loading into Summoner's Rift. This is the very first time we'll see these teams compete in P-Cup. It is Icy versus Flamers Inc. Now, absolutely essential to mention as well is the fact that they have a very strong early game team, and we see red side's going to be plotting down towards the bot. We may look for an early invade, and as anyone would know who's ever teamed with me, I do love invading. Does it always work? Absolutely not, but sometimes it just gets you a little bit of an advantage that you might not find before. They're going to take that bot lane path. They're not going to be spotted out by Braum, but he did drop a ward there. Excuse me, Nautilus. They're going to have the vision of this going forward. Not sure if this is going to work out. We'll see how blue team responds, potentially getting vision on Raptors, or it looks like they're wrapping around itself into the blue side jungle. Potentially they'll catch someone coming back, but red team decided that once they didn't find anything, they would call it a day. Now, Dev, do you mind telling everyone what role you play when you are on screen here for P-Cup? What role do you main?
So I'm actually a support player.
Support
I am
laners, let's go, baby.
I am a dirty Nautilus abuser. I don't know why this champion wasn't getting picked before. You literally want to be to your lane. The amount of times you can just kill both laners after your AD carry dies because they positioned awfully is just too much. He's probably like the only good tank support left in the meta, in my opinion. Because he just had the point and click, CC ability.
Yeah, I do enjoy Nautilus, and I've seen a little bit of Leona being picked up as well, as Rakan is always a priority. I've seen that been as a bit of a matchup. I've seen a little Leona and Rakan when Nautilus isn't available, but those two picks seem to be the only two front runners in terms of being purebred tanks that can succeed in the meta. So as the game goes on, I'm going to want to make sure that we're all paying attention to the jungle pathing. We've mentioned the Pantheon, we've mentioned the Zac. Now Zac struggles with his early clear. And we've mentioned his creative gank paths, that's true. However, Pantheon spotted out on the blue vision that Icy was able to place, Flamers Inc. was able to place off of Icy's invade, so they know where Pantheon is. And it's up to the lanes to correctly respect this Pantheon's early game pathing ability and react to it. It's really absolutely critical that happens. And we're going to be able to see a fight in the top side, but in terms of top lane, Dev, obviously, Camille's going to try to beat the ever-loving crap out of Malphite while Malphite slaps her up, but how much do these teams rely on their top laners, and what's ideal for them? Because with bot lane so critical, they might be being left on an island. So what role are these champions really going to play in terms of the team fighting or splitting potential of these two teams?
So the one big thing is that the Malphite is mostly a pick that you see when you want to still be useful. Oh, here.
Oh, wait a minute. Zac's actually going to cut you off at that early gank. Zac's Elastic Strike and Stretching Strings go down. That's a first blood to the Kai'Sa and completely cuts off what you were saying. And without a doubt, that Zac was ready to play with an early level 3 gank. Now, Pantheon's hoping to make a return as Zac pushes into the red side jungle to grab some vision. Pantheon's just going to meander through the mid lane, and that's going to be all she wrote for that. But as we've already seen that early bot gank, the top laners still are on that remote island. So what were you continuing to say about the role that those two are going to play in this series?
So we're going to see Malphite more as he's not going to really be in the side lane for a lot of this matchup outside of the first 10 to 15 minutes. You want to expect him to come more from the side or at least standing in the middle, because I'm pretty sure that Flamers Inc. probably want to go and whenever they fight, it's going to be a dive party, and you're going to use the Braum to de-aggro the first fight, and you're going to have the Malphite come in and re-engage for you whenever you feel comfortable.
Speaking of that re-engage, Pantheon is there for the counter gank. Flash away from Syndra is going to be a pickup from Zohair on the Pantheon up in the top lane. Malphite and Camille are also going to fight. Camille goes in with her E. Malphite just beats the Everlink shit out of her because he doesn't care. And that's going to be one trade over to red side off of a nice read on the jungle pathing by Zohair on the Pantheon. Nicely done to make sure that Hiccup doesn't go down there. Flash burned for the Syndra as well as Echo. We'll have to see how the junglers play around their mid laners' lack of summoners going forward. But until then, we've just got some more top lane action. Now, we see that early aggression from Pantheon start to match that Zac, but we haven't seen too much play out in terms of bot side action. What are the teams? They're still completely even in gold, of course, but in terms of the goals of each team and knowing the strengths of the composition, knowing what you said about that bot lane 2v2 matchup, how do you feel like the teams should respond or play around their junglers pathing here? Like, should we prioritize mid lane? Should we look for an early Drake? What do you think the goal here after that nice evening up by Zohair should be when he paths around for his next swing while we have this pause go down?
Oh yeah. So the main thing is I'm expecting to see whenever Kai'Sa finishes her Mermon, or at least gets tier on her side. I expect the Nautilus, once he gets Mobies, to actually start roaming mid, because the Syndra does have flash down, and yes, it'll probably back up by the time Nautilus does hit 6 and would want to meet the Zac in the mid lane. Syndra's still a very mobile champion, and the Pantheon can easily, be locked up as well. So as long as the Kai'Sa is able to stay safe down there, maybe they'll get a lane freeze going on like how they have right now. They should be, not in much danger of losing the Kai'Sa in a 2v1, as Braum takes a little bit more action to get his gank properly engaged upon whenever the Pantheon would show up if he wanted to show up mid lane.
Gotcha. Now, these teams both have a lot to prove because it is the first time we're seeing either of them. Now, I know we mentioned a couple players before that have been here, like Zohair and Karaoke Machine, but they've never actually been able to take home a championship or make too much of an impact. If I remember correctly, last time Karaoke was a starter, it was Sentinels for the players in Twitch chat that played back in Season 6. Probably one of the best seasons ever. I don't know who won that season, but probably was a really great season. I don't know. But I remember those two were on Sentinels, or at least Karaoke was. Now, with so many new faces, I'm definitely going to keep track of, especially those lanes that are less let's say, competitively stacked. Top lane, we always need new talent. Jungle is a very, very competitive role. I want to see if any of these players, Shady Gecko or Zohair, returning back into the spotlight. I want to see if any of these players can challenge sort of the pantheon of the top tier junglers that P-Cup has had recently. Every year, a jungler has won P-Cup MVP, with the exception of PGR last time, of course. Mid lane, we always have some star talent, but we've actually lost quite a bit over the years. Sandillion isn't a mid lane main roster anymore. He sits on Vortex sub bench. DTS isn't playing this year. Neither is Charlie Smells or Jared. I'll include myself. Why not? I'm no longer on mid. Weird flex. So I really want to see some of these solo lanes step into their own. I'd love for some new top tier talent to really permeate Peak Up. So I'm going to be looking at the solo laners' performances as we go on, without a doubt there. But in terms of Dev, if you had to choose, right? Obviously, these teams it's still so early in the season, but both these teams did fairly well in plans. Maybe I'm not familiar. Did you end up watching plans, or did you just key to up with the results?
So I did not have a chance to watch play-ins. I've been like normally my weekends are pretty busy. Friday, Saturday, but I can normally show up on Sunday. But yeah, I mostly just caught them making it in. I haven't really gotten to watch many VODs. So
yeah, I'll bring you up to speed because I played in both the play-in tournaments. So ICY actually, I predicted on a talk show that they would make it into play-ins the first round, but they actually had a very disappointing performance. I think they only ended with one win. I think their record stood at 1-3 by the end of the day. And then they either scrimmed, did a 180, took some Adderall, snorted some coke. Don't know what happened between the next 2 weeks, but second play-in tournament rolls around, they steamroll the competition, undefeated, clean absolute house to make it into P Cup. Now, in terms of blue team Flamers, in second talk show, they weren't in the first tournament. I also predicted them to make it as well. I have a lot of respect for their roster. My team Sad Boys actually played them. While they underperformed against us and seemed to struggle to find their niche in terms of the competitive atmosphere, their comps, drafting wasn't always 100% on board. Seems like they were missing some pieces. Execution wasn't 100% there. They still qualified. They still made it back into P Cup, right? So what I want to make sure is I'm taking notes of how these teams really succeed as they begin their first premier performance. Now, I'm getting a lot of people saying that I am very quiet. Let me see if I can turn myself up. Nope, I can't. Tori, do you want to do me a solid? Put me at like 200%, my friend. If I'm not already, that would be pretty sweet.
And I mean, the one thing you gotta think of too when it comes to these kind of leagues is that you're going to have like a snapshot of the meta where the stuff that's very busted is going to be contested, but there's going to be a lot more niche strategies kind of happening here.
Yes.
Where you'll see a curveball thrown left or right. You'll see maybe a one trick who's like, oh, I've seen him do this before. Oh, I gotta respect this. And you may not respect the champion, but if he pops off on you, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. And I think a big thing that I'm going to build off that, Dev, is the change to the best of one. P Cup actually stands for Pause Cup. That's fun fact, little known. But especially with the change to best of one, it completely skews draft. I know last season I would go on many times with Vortex and say, oh, game one, we'll just feel it out. Let's not ban it, see how they perform. And then if it seems to be like a problem, we'll fix it in the future. But you just don't have that luxury in best of one, that strategy, that testing, that seeing those picks work. There's always a little bit of a risk involved, right? If your team doesn't trust you to say lock in something troll like Shaco support, if you lose that game, it's over. You don't have a best of three to bring it back. Each team every game plays for keeps. Now it's a double round robin. Lots of games have to keep going, but every game matters. So when teams go into draft, there's only one possible way for them to make sure that they win, and it's drafting the best possible comp. So we're going to see more trades go back and forth in these solo lanes as well. But now we have to think about that Earth Dragon spawned. How important for it is the teams should be prioritizing for it, or is it more important to abuse those blown summer spells because there's no TPs available except for in the mid lane? So how are teams going to be able to play around this Earth Dragon, Dev? Like, who do you think has the wherewithal to pull the trigger. We see Zach going down, but what do you think is going to happen in the next few minutes here that is going to show the direction of these teams? What are the goals here?
So in my opinion, for Flamers Inc., the Earth Dragon's not as relevant as it is for ICY.
Oh, speaking of Earth Dragon, though, it's going to be on the bot side. Zach's going to come in, but Zohair is then the countering. Once again, Zach gets stunned up with a Braum strikes. Flash out by Zach goes down. E from Pantheon gets him out safely. Teleport's coming down from Hiccup in the middle lane. Zach's going to go down. Ash is slowing. Flash out from Kaisa as well. Hiccup's here now for the backup. Braum lands 2 stacks of his passives. Jump in and a Syndra stun with the ult. Now Echo's joined the fight. Braum got stunned up, but healed by Ash. Going to let him flash out away to safety. Echo ult going to go down. Syndra tries to sneak her way out. Ash always auto-attacking right click. Pantheon procs the passive and the W. Kais is going to get out by the skin of her chinny chin, and that is going to be a completely dominated team fight by the side of Red. Dev, what just happened there? What's going on? What are these teams even doing? This is wild.
So the one thing about that fight that's very, very questionable, the engage isn't the question. So when Echo actually TPs in and ultis, he has a chance to just one-shot the Braum. He autos, he throws the front half a Q out, and he refuses to do the third auto that would straight up kill Braum. He's hoping the Q would come back and kill him. Braum unstuns from Echo W, E's backwards, takes no damage, and walks out for free, while the Echo's turning on the Syndra. You have to keep a focus, and you have to say, kill this player, because the Kaisa was already out of the fight. The Zac was basically dead after the Pantheon stunned him. You have to at least get the extra kill trade there, and not kind of just tunnel on the mid laner.
I gotcha. And towards the end of that fight, too, to add insult to injury, Pantheon kicks up a cheeky kill, making it even more of a gold swing on the side of Red. Now, it's not too much. Really, the game hasn't changed a lot, but something important to note is that the mid laner teleport has been blown, as well as all summoners bot. I would be crying for my gank right now if I was that Nautilus, especially with a Zac on. With so many different creative paths he can take and the lack of vision, it really is so simple, but blue team has to watch out that Pantheon is bot side. They have no vision, and he's pinging the ultimate. Braum leaps in, misses the ultimate. Pantheon ult goes down. Actually, the Braum ult connects, but they're stunning up Nautilus here. Ash is right-clicking as hard as she can. Flash out from Nautilus goes down. Zac with the stretching strikes. Stuns both of them up. Pantheon with the Q. And a stun goes down on Zac, but no kills are going to be had as Syndra's roam down from the bot lane, except for the pings going down from blue. They have vision of her, and they're just going to walk it out with no kills had.
Yeah, I mean, the one big thing about these fights is that the Nautilus is kind of in like a weird position there, you know, where you saw he was stuck in the bush with the pink ward, but the Pantheon angled his ultimate perfectly to where if the Nautilus had decided to leave, he would have ate, 300, 150, whatever rank 1 Pantheon ult damage is, and he would not have made it out of that fight without having to blow his flash a little bit earlier. They were able to properly disengage, but it is still looking kind of rough.
Yeah, these fights, it just seems like whenever Zac's there, oh, wait a minute, Malphite with the Unstoppable Force, a terrible flash going down, nice ult to dodge it, but it's not going to matter. Camille's going to get solo killed by Pika Veteran Karaoke, proving once again why he comes back, but now it's into the other solo lane. Echo's going to take a lot of damage down onto the Syndra, but he's not going to commit, doesn't have potentially the mana or resources, but now Zac is here, sitting on the pink ward looking for lane gate. Nautilus hook goes wide, but Nautilus ult is a point and click. Zac Qs are going to go down as well. CC, Ash just absolutely cannot move. Braum W's for the extra mana. By mana, I mean armor. Speaking is hard. And they trade away the solo kill on the top side for added pressure in the bottom lane. Ping's going down to Dragon, and maybe we'll see our first neutral objective taken of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just that one thing, it's kind of hard, like, what is Ash supposed to do? Like, you have to respect the fact that Nautilus will have, like, a range of 700, 800, something outrageous like that, to where if you're in auto attack range, Nautilus is an ulti range. And you can even just throw the ult out, guarantee the hook hit. But, like, what's Ash supposed to do there? Your Braum can't peel that. Like, that ability isn't blockable by wall. Like, you have to kind of sit there and die.
And especially when those summoners have been burned, that bot lane fight that had gone so well for them, you have to, and I'm guilty of this every time as well. Actually, Pantheon's going to have a bit of a scrap in the top side, going to try to walk it out after a respectful engage, but actually Camille's not had enough, walks into blind vision. Malphite's going to beat the shit out of her, pardon my language there, but Pantheon's going to go in as well. Zac this time with the counter gank, not Pantheon. The ultimate coming down from Zac as well is going to bounce him into the Malphite. Echo's completely out of mana, trying to chase down the Malphite, lands the auto, gets the second part, procs the passive. Malphite with the strike's going down. Zach misses the W, but I don't think it's going to matter. Margarine's going to clap him with the bat, and that's going to be another 2 kills going to the blue team. Nice 2-for-1 trade. And we saw that time, actually, Zach being the one to engage in the counter, not the Pantheon. And it worked out for the side of blue.
Yeah, it worked out, but I mean, still a disastrous early engage.
Disastrous early engage, but a great engage from the side of blue side bottom lane. Zach ult passive going down, trying Braum his best to slow down the enemy ADC. It's not going to be enough. Keatonology takes down the kill. Ignite's going to get popped as well. Braum's going to attempt to trade. Can he get it? Oh, so close. And the bottom lane Tonology crew. Oh, Malphite ult. Nice flash coming down, actually. Teleport's also going to come in. Who is it going to be? It's going to be Echo trying to help his Nautilus save the day. Pantheon's going to be there as well, but it looks like the TP was canceled and Nautilus is left to die like a sad, sad deep sea diver at the bottom of the ocean. Now, in the middle lane, it just seems like no one's ever stopping to fight. Probot's going to go to land. Landing, so the E gets hit. Syndra R is going down a little bit early, potentially nervous. Zach swept the bush, has complete sight. Syndra flash out, and Echo will dive out of harm's way. Continuous action going on in this first early game. 7 kills to 8, completely even gold.
And the one thing that, like, the fact that Red Team was able to catch up into gold even after losing the Drake. I mean, because the many, like, turret plates. Like, Malphite just, you know, has taken 3 turret plates topside against this Camille. And I mean, I think that's more of the Camille being kind of greedy and taking Klepto in this matchup to not respecting what the Malphite can do early game.
Now, Dev, you mentioned the Camille versus Malphite. I want to bring your attention, actually, about tower plates to the Malphite's build. If I'm not mistaken, that is a Triforce. We'll have to get on that in a second. Pantheon is going to walk right into a Zach W. There's going to be a bit of a scuffle here. Nautilus R is going to go down. The depth charge is going to land. Zohair is going to go down. The hook also lands. Stun E. And that's going to be another kill fed to the mid laner. 4-2-1 scoreline. Zach is not done, though, but it looks like Syndra is going to be able to walk out. And another scrap happening around vision control. It's just never ending. I love it. They're going for Herald now. A great way to transition those early kills. The jungler's down. You have the vision control scouting out if they are going to come from the jungle. You know Ashe is top. You know Syndra's mid. Malphite's missing. But, you know, I respect that. You get the pick and you transition it into this early objective. And it's looking really proactive on the side of blue after an early game that really wasn't in their favor.
I mean, then that's the main thing. You just have to not get caught here if you're Flamers Inc. And it's one thing where it's like, the Malphite's build is going to be put into question, you know, seeing that he is 3-1, he's going to want to sit in the silent, because this isn't really a team fighting build. He can't really get in there, you know, like the recent AP Malphites we've been seeing, you know, all over the place. Whether it be solo queue, whether it be professional play. Just the main thing that he's going to be kind of, you know, useless outside of him, you know, ulting in and hitting W and autoing once. Because, if my guys do not remember, Malphite W actually has a Sheen proc attached to it now on the first auto, and it does have proper AD scaling. It's not as good as it used to be when it gave you percentage AD.
Ooh, this looks like a mistake from Nautilus. He pulls the trigger, but it's not going to be fast enough because he didn't know that reinforcements were in the river. My man, you have suffered from the classic hook champion syndrome. I've been there. I feel your pain. That is another 2-kill swing on the favor of red. Camille's going to actually getting a bit of a kerfuffle here as she attempts to match pressure on the bottom side of the map, but it's not going to be much as Echo drops his W in the middle lane, establishing prio. Zach's hovering around. Pantheon's making sure to match. Zach actually is going to drop the Herald. They want to trade that top tower for mid. No wave, though. Shelly's going to take a big old chunk out of that mid tower, but Zach's going to go in, overshoot his W just a little bit with the Q as well. Not going to result in any kills. They have to respect this. Herald smacking away, but I don't know if it's going to be able to get a turret, so not an ideal usage if you wanted to trade outer towers. Now we see pings going onto the Baron, but resets are coming out. What's going to happen next? How are these teams going to play around the map? Maybe teleport's going to be used, but what's next on the agenda? If you're a blue team, you know, you clawed back from that early deficit. You're completely even now. You have the comp that's more favored. How is this going to work out?
You're having to rely more on your Echo than anything here, as the Camille just keeps getting weaker, and the Zach doesn't seem like he's unable to engage properly, even though he picked up that, you know, 700 gold shutdown on the Pantheon earlier.
True, and he's not going to be able to engage properly, especially if he's dead. The cell division is not enough. TP wasn't channeled to save him, and now they're going to be Taking that dragon, it should go down nice and easily. Don't expect blue team to contest with their main engage taken out of the picture, and that will be a free Earth Dragon for red side, evening up the elementals 1-1 as mid lane trades tower for dragon.
And the one thing I want to pull a little bit of attention to is, like the Camille's been trying her hardest to actually trade in the bottom lane with the Malphite, but it's all just not working anymore. Like the Malphite's timing his fights around his shield coming up. The Camille has to wait the 8 seconds for hers to come up as well, but the Malphite's just getting an extra 10, maybe 12 armor off of his passive W. So whenever Camille wants to go on the fight, the Malphite's trading more damage than the Camille can take before the true damage half of her Q comes up.
Yes, and this bruiser build he built is just so effective against Camille because as she eases in, it's just right into his loving rock arms. He just absolutely smacks her with the attack speed steroid as well as the Tabby's resistances. She only has tier 1s. Malphite absolutely slobber knockers her. It's not even close from the trades I've seen now, but I really like the saucy build that Karaoke has built out. Now, he might be dying for this tower if he's not careful. He does have the ultimate. Zach W going to go down, but he's going to ult away from the Q onto the Camille. Camille also has the R that she can use. Malphite's out of mana. He doesn't care too much on this bruiser build, but it's not going to be enough. Looks like the kill is going to be going down. Flash burn, but it's not going to be enough as Nautilus comes with the depth charge. Beautiful emote BM, trying to give it to Camille, actually gets dangerously close to going down, but Shutdown will go to the enemy top laner, trying to even up that gold as Echo walks away from them, attempting to kill him mid. And that is a great equalizer for that split we were just talking about. Maybe we'll be able to see Camille make more of an impact as both top laners do have teleport.
Yeah, I mean, if Camille's actually able to catch up, you can actually see Flamer, I think, probably move into a 1-3-1 here. I mean, Camille and Echo are almost unstoppable in the side lane.
And speaking of the unstoppableness of Echo, Echo's going to try to prove it right now, but the flash is going to go out, and so Echo will not be able to prove that. Now, Camille has overstayed her welcome as Pantheon's come down, but the Syndra E is going to go wide as this action keeps swapping between Camille and Pantheon. Pantheon misses the Q. Camille flashes out, Pantheon flashes after, and that's a kill as the other mid lane fight results in no deaths. But the 1v1 between Zohair and a Wild Terry goes in the favor of Icy, and once again, the gold has swung completely back to even. It just feels like these teams can't get in either footing on one another.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle because I don't think Flamers has really had time to set up properly what I'm guessing, in a perfect world they want to do. And I mean, it's the one thing to where Icy's just kind of, playing around what they know they can do. The Pantheon knows he's strong. The Malphite know they're strong, and they're not afraid to take these fights. The Malphite ulted in. He could have easily ulted out of the Zac, but he said, "Nah, I think I'm gonna go for the kill." So,
a man after my own heart. I always got to boost that KDA, and for a couple of stats, KD's important. But as we all know, as our support players out there, vision score is truly the only score that matters. As Nautilus and Zac go to establish some wards deep in the enemy jungle and hope to catch out this sad, lonely marksman. But that ward, vision control, will save her life as they push further into the jungle, trying to get some sort of control and transition that into some early outer towers.
And the later this game goes, it's going to be awful for Ashe. I think it's going to be terrible for her. Have to
Dear Lord, yes. I don't want to imagine a world where I'm playing Ashe into that comp. See a little bit of a scrap mid lane. I've never actually seen mid lane transition to kill, but Hiccup is dangerously low. Has to ult and E to survive, but Echo is able to completely survive that damage. Syndra barely escaping with her life there, preserving her wonderful, perfect KDA. But without stress? No, not exactly. Gets harder and harder for her to deal with that matchup as Echo Syndra is so infamous. Malphite's going to ult in, actually. So whapping her with her Triforce isn't going to really do any much damage because he is not that full AP. He cannot burst her down, and she will just shrug it off. That is a team fight tool, however, that is not available. And we're starting to see what you're talking about, Dev, in terms of the game is miserable for Ashe. She practically has to get babysat with how many ways that she can get ambushed, while Kai'Sa has these tools that can deal with things like the Malphite, things like the Pantheon. But this Ashe is at the mercy of Camille, she's at the mercy of Zac, she's at the mercy of Nautilus, and they have to make sure that they're using their wards more and more and more. As this dragon's going to come up, we're going to have to see if they're able to do that.
It's one of those things to where I think like the Ashe is just kind of going to fade as the game goes on, so it's going to be more on Syndra. to mostly, set up these stuns that come off of them pretty much one-shotting Ashe in fights. So, I think an E-Reaver would be better for Ashe to go towards instead of going towards what I'm guessing is going to be a Runans. I mean, yes, they have a lot of frontliners, but if you don't get the auto attack, what's the real point? You're kind of looking like an arrow bot right now.
An arrow bot she is as the arrow goes down onto the Camille Ying, and this is going to be a huge fight. Bromwell's going to go down, but it's not going to be enough. Camille is going to go down as well. Ashe flashes away, trying to escape, but it's not going to be enough. Kaisa's going to snipe her with the W as she DPSs onto Brom with the Q going down. Hiccup's going to come back in, but the fight's gone down to Zohair as he falls on the Pantheon. Malphite's there, slapping away. The Malphite ult is going to go down as the Echo ult is hit into Hiccup. He can get back in. That's a double kill going on for the Echo. The CC is just too much. Nautilus Auto is going to root the Brom. He's going to go down as well. Malphite is just an unkillable demon. Going to slap the absolute bonanza out of Brom. He's walking out. Zach W just completely whiffs. Echo is going to blast him with the Lichbane proc, and a completely chaotic fight goes on the side of Flamers Inc. with the gold now 1K in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, just, this perfect balancing of the fight right there from Flamers. I'm pretty sure some of them are surprised by the Malphite's damage, on that re-engage. But the Echo kept it cool. He didn't panic, just moved back onto the Syndra, picked up the kill there, transitioned over onto the Braum, and then moved towards the Malphite. And I mean, as long as the Echo keeps it cool, there's only like a really good game for him.
Oh, wow. I honestly didn't expect this to happen, but Pantheon decided he wanted to be a part of the party, but that party is the only surprise party, and the surprise is his untimely death. Braum Q is going to go down as well, but Camille is going to make sure that Braum is punished for that disgusting Q as Zach gets another overloaded W kit in. Ashe is going to be able to stun him up with the Braum passive, DPSing the blobs. As Cinder gets hooked, she's going to go down as Ashe makes sure she tries to clean up the Zach, but the depth charge is going to make sure that Zach escapes, funneling into the Malphite. Malphite's, yes, beautiful W claps. Ashe is getting CC'd. She's having so much fun. Right-click them, Ashe, right-click them. Heel's gonna go down. Can she survive? She cannot, but the absolute Chad Malphite build makes sure that Zach isn't gonna get away. Trying to make sure he kills him with the ease. Not gonna be enough. The Q's gonna go down from both enemy champs, and the slap makes sure that Karaoke is the only one alive. That 4v5 going, I don't know if it's entirely worth, as the Dragon was secured and that top inner tower was gotten.
I mean, it's one big thing to where, luckily for IC, that it's been triple mountain and not a single inferno.
Oh my goodness.
God.
Dear Lord. Lads, Echo's
help
up.
This man, he has 10 stacks.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I want to see the Magi's purchase. I'll be honest. I'm a Magi's fan.
And I mean, like, if you have the gold for it, and I mean, if you choose not to go for the hourglass quickly to try and, preserve the shutdown, it's up to him.
True. And he's at the stage of the game where he honestly just does not care about what the enemy team is doing. That's such a frustrating champion to deal with. If you can't lock him down and burst him in the first 2 seconds of a fight, it just feels like he never goes down. It just feels absolutely impossible. And I talked a lot about the marksman at the beginning of the game. You and I went back and forth on how the Ashe and Kaisa picks would work, but really it is the solo laner show. Echo really, really performing. Margarine in his first main stage PKF game, and Karaoke with his return to grace with his absolute Chad 1v9 rock Malphite build. I really, really have enjoying these fights. They are making it absolutely enjoyable to watch. I'm glad that it's a little bit of a bloodbath as opposed to a more clean macro game, because these are honestly the most fun games for me to watch when I'm sitting here.
And I mean, like, I don't know exactly what the Malphite's building out of this Negatron cloak and this Ruby Crystal. I mean, I would love to just see him build a Witsend and just, just go all in on it, be able to fight the Echo in the side lane. That's going to
maybe an Abyssal Mask? Maybe?
If it's an Abyssal Mask, I guess that's fine. It does partner well with his Ground Slap and also Sunfire Cape. It does actually boost the damage the Sunfire Cape does do by 15%. I mean, maybe, 2 to 3 damage a second, but if you're the Rock, you're just going to be in there the whole time anyway.
Now, this is, speaking of being in there, a dangerous Baron call. The TPs are going to be channeled from Malphite. Camille's late to the party. Nautilus takes a huge amount of damage, but a disgusting 4-man ultimate's going to let him disengage as he walks out. He's not sure, but Malphite's chasing, looking for that unstoppable force. Pantheon's going to channel the ult as well. They want a pick here. They want to make sure that they secure at least some sort of kills as they burn the teleports from Hiccup. Now,
Echo
Zach's
stun
in.
coming in.
Kaisa, huge flank, and Echo as well. Kaisa on the back line, trying her best to DPS. Passive's going to go down, not going to be enough. Karaoke Machine's on a killing spree. Echo and Zach being the shit out of Malphite, but Malphite slapping him right back with his Triforce Sunfire build. Zach, however, is just so incredibly tanky that Malphite's going to walk it out. Camille is splitting insanely without any pressure. She did not pull the trigger on the teleport, and it's paying dividends for the side of blue team. They're getting so much, and this is a disaster for Icy as Malphite tries his absolute best to run away, but he is going to get Zach W'd for the kill, and that is an ace 4v5 for the side of Flamers Inc. A inhib down, and a happy Camille sitting, farming the bottom wave. A complete turnaround. Disaster has struck. Disaster has arrived for Red Side, and that was one of the nails, if not the final nail in the coffin for the next team fight. We'll just have to see how that plays out.
And I mean, it's just at this point, you know. So let's watch the AD carries for a second. Kaisa's hit 3 items. So if you're Ashe, like you are a quarter of the champion that Kaisa is now. All 3 evolutions ready for her. Season 9, baby. Can't wait for that second skin. The one thing though is that now that you're Ashe, your fighting's, you know, worse than Kaisa's is now. Your engage is technically still worse than Kaisa's because she has a lot of things to jump to. You need to pick here. This isn't a situation where you're lining up at the dragon or you're lining up at the Baron. You have to be able to catch one person out at a time and turn that into objectives. You can't turn an objective into kills. You need to turn the kills into the objectives here.
And an objective, conveniently, was just gotten off the back of those earlier kills. Now there are pings going down in the jungle. It looks like blue team wants to pull the trigger. They still do have that Camille teleport. Eyes on Echo here. He lands
down the Echo, 1-2.
Beautiful W, but he can't get the stun now. Malphite actually has a fantastic engage, landing his ult on the entire backline, but his entire team is separated. It's just too awkward for them to try again. Camille actually teleports, taking down Hiccup as well. Echo flashes forward, as well as the Zac. The Camille is going to trap Pantheon in. The Empowered E is going to keep him alive, but not for too much longer, as the Empowered Camille auto is going to go down, as well as the W for the attempted slow. Ashe is going to try to walk it out as she tries her best to right-click, but she is only a puny marksman in the eyes of an angry blue team, and this could be the push to end the entire game right here. Respawn timers are 20+ seconds, and it does look like blue team's gonna go for it. That Lich Bane doing so much work. Nautilus flash forward, gonna land the hook as well. Zach jumping in. Braum trying his best to peel for his Ashe, but it's an open nexus. Ashe right-clicking as hard as she can, but she is just a puny Ashe. Echo absolutely deleting her along with Camille, and that is going to be Flamers Inc. with their first P-Cup win over Icy in a completely exciting match.